garden update, 28th of May 2024. A little side garden. See, there's a space there that need to be filled out, but a little listen coming up there. The snapdragons have lost some of their flowers, but that'll come along alright. Now go around to the front. Shadow there, but there you go. So the Westringia and the Winter Rouge are doing alright. Excuse the neighbours' noise. So the rest of this is all starting to look a bit worn down as we head further into winter, but that's alright. Around to the front little ones across the driveway, so a little bit of life still there. And the Bells of Ireland, doing alright. Across here. So this little bit here, there are a bunch of dianthus, excuse the gardening noises, gladioli. And as I was pulling a bunch of them, trimming I should say, a bunch of the tops off, ended up getting some corms. So I've moved some of those corms around the garden and replanted the bigger bits. That's all good. The rose bush still doing alright. The lovely alyssum here growing up nice and tall. Let's get rid of that weed top there at least. More alyssum. I think odorata, a number of self-seeded aquilegia, the smaller snapdragons there, there's some other snapdragons over there. The lupin here, I was hoping to gather some seeds from the seed pods, but they had actually basically twisted open and dropped them all, so I might not be getting some of that, but that's alright. I'll just over into the corner. I've done a lot of cutting down bits and pieces, so the hollyhocks have been trimmed right back. And Nepeta in the corner there. I think that's another Nepeta there, I think. The dahlias there being cut back. Brunella. Little blue trumpets. They seem to be doing alright at the moment. That hollyhock's been cut back. A few bits and pieces. Still a little bit of activity, a little bit of colour still, but most of it's kind of died back now. And now I'll move around to the back garden. Almost forgot. So I'll say this a little bit. Obviously, birdbath garden has probably a lot of weed in there. It looks like a lot of lettuce as well, which is probably from some compost which had seeds in it. I'll let that lot grow and then I'll figure it out once I actually get some proper flowers and things in there. So obviously that one's meant to be there, but yeah, the rest of it, I think there's just a lot of weed matter along the ground, along the bottom. That actually looks like a volunteer tomato, so that'll have to come out. But there are also bulbs in there. So see how it goes a bit later and then tidy it up. Ignore the background noise. It's possibly going to be a bit of a noisy day because it's sunny. It's about 17.5 degrees out here. I just checked my greenhouse sensor. It's about 23.5 degrees in there. So people are out doing lawns and things like that, which is quite reasonable because we're expecting some rain coming along. Anyway, the veggie patch. Excuse the patches of compost material. At the moment I don't have a compost bag because I'm in the middle of renovating, as it were, that area, but the veggie patch is a bit of a mixed bag at the moment. So there are some things that I've planted and other things that are self-seeded. Can't remember which that is, but that's it. I'm fairly sure that these self-seeded poppies, because I did actually have a poppy there last year. There are some brassicas that I've put out. There's some lettuce that I've put out. So these are iceberg lettuce. The brassicas will vary, I think, between cauliflower, broccoli, that might be it actually. It might be cabbage, but I think it's basically broccoli and cauliflower. So self-seeded potatoes. The capsicum / bell pepper over here is still producing. I actually had one off there that even the children said was okay, so not like the one that I've overwintered and kept for a few years, which apparently is a bit off, or not too good anyway. So there's more of the lettuce here, more of the brassicas, and then more of the volunteer potatoes. Now these alliums here, I'm not entirely sure what they are. I did have some garlic in the front of the bed here, but I also had some onion, and I suspect what they are is possibly self-seeded from one of those, because a bunch of them did actually go to the flower stalks. So could be either, but if you could let them grow either way, I'm happy to have either of them if they succeed. So that's all good. Got some pak choy, which I believe is self-seeded from last year's pak choy. So again, that's a nice little thing. Along the back here, stalks there, I believe, are some of the garlic that I put out. Those were garlic that looked like they might have been a bit worse for wear, but I thought, well, I can just put them in the garden anyway and we'll see what happens. Well, it looks like they've grown, so it's not a bad idea to give things a chance, even if they look like they might not be doing so well. These tufty bits here may very well be carrots. Now, it's unlikely that they're self-seeded because I didn't let those go to seed, but they might be either ones that didn't germinate earlier and have come up later. I don't know how long they can be in the ground before germinating or before becoming no longer viable, but that might be what it is. Or it's entirely possible that I scattered some there and forgot about them. So either way, we've got the kale just doing quite well. So that's all good. The remainder of the eggplants or aubergines, I'll probably leave them in there. I don't necessarily need the room, so that's fine. They can just sit there. That looks like another avocado growing. So it'll be from one of the stones that has been in the compost from my wife's enjoyment of avocados. Over here, these canes, but the canes, these, what do you call them? These things, these things here, they seem to be like a thinner version of some of the ones I see people in the YouTube videos using. They're, as a result, they're quite bendable, but that's a good and a bad thing. I think they're a little bit too bendable, but they should do the job. So I've got some peas, snow peas or sugar snap peas at the base of those to grow up, hopefully. Now, I've got my stakes in here, which have, I believe it was garlic, carrot, onion, carrot, different sort of onion, carrot leek, I think is what I had there. If I carefully step over, or attempt to, shuffle around, you should be able to see that we do seem to have carrot germination, which is good. I've also put some lettuce in between the rows here. I actually recently pulled out a bunch of self-seeded potatoes here because I figured they're actually covering over. I don't mind self-seeded potatoes, obviously, but I didn't want them covering over the crops that I'd actually planted because I thought that might impact their growth. So I just sort of pulled those back a bit to give these ones a chance to grow. So some more carrots over there. I did it alternating because I figured that would help me figure out what row had what in it. And it looks like the onions and the garlic are going to take a bit longer to germinate than the carrots, or at least show the germination than the carrots, but that's, I think, to be expected, and that's fine. A whole bunch of what I believe are self-seeded tomatoes, because I didn't have the tomatoes in this part. I have cut back the red grape quite dramatically. This one I'm not super fussed if it survives, because it shouldn't have been planted there. That was my mistake. I'll probably plant it on the opposite side when I make a little trellis sort of thing there. The green grape, or the white grape I think they're called, I have trimmed that back quite aggressively as well. That actually still has some grapes growing on the top of it. I'll actually make my way over there and I'll see if we can find them. Yeah, there we go. Just a few little grapes left. So we'll see how those turn out. Now, duck down this way. As always, excuse the mess. I'm not a tidy gardener. Sorry about that. Not sorry. So that's an overwintered cabbage, which actually looks like it's attempting to develop some cabbages here, but that's been there for I think 2 years now. That's fine. There's some sticky weed in there that I'll have to get out. Sticky weed's kind of the main one that I actually do bother trying to pull out, for no apparent reason why I focus on that one other than others, but it just annoys me because it does stick to everything, funnily enough. I'm not sure if sticky weed is technically the name for it, but it does suit it. Aloe vera plant here. Spiky, obviously. These were here when we moved in, and I was totally fine with that because they have a number of, at least alleged, beneficial properties. They're quite good, apparently, on cuts and burns and things like that. And I use them as a growth, well, not quite a growth hormone, but the rooting powder, that sort of thing. So instead of using rooting powder, I basically snap some of that off and I dab the ends in that. Previous results seem to be fairly successful. I don't know if it was because of that, if it was just I was lucky on that occasion. I'll take either one. So these trees here, that one I think is a nectarine. That hasn't produced fruit, that's fine. There's one here that was the apricot that was damaged when I accidentally had a branch fall on it. That's grown back quite nicely. And then the one next to that is the peach, is a yellow peach. I want to take all of these out, not to get rid of them, but to move them over here, which is a bit tricky to see at the moment. So this is part of the old compost bay. That's a bunch of bits and pieces left over. So as we go over to that way, I'll just show you the rhubarb, and then there's the gooseberry bush, which has never produced a lot, so that may end up getting moved as well, I'm not sure. Anyway, so here is the first issue. So this thing, that branch there, has grown around that lower rung, and so that's proving quite tricky to remove. And that tree is just well established, and that's against the fence line, so also proving somewhat tricky to remove. So the idea is to remove those two, which were not fruiting trees, and then put some fruit trees in, perhaps another foot or two that way, so perhaps about here. And then what I'll probably do is maybe put some flowers along the edge, because they're not going to be pushing out the fence, so that should be fine. And then at some point, this big tree will also come down, because it's a bit in danger of going over the lines there, the cables and things. Speaking of those sticky weeds, don't like them. So yeah, I'll take that down. I may leave the base of that one, the trunk of it I should say, because I'll show you in a moment as we duck around this way. This is where it sits. So there's a chance what I could do is cut it all off about there and make it into a little table to go next to the bench. That could work. We'll see how we go. So here again, the mistaken attempt at doing the wood chip but not putting stuff down. There's a whole bunch of self-seeded sweet peas there though, which is nice. Foxglove in the back, alyssum there, hollyhock there. Pond is doing okay, obviously covered in leaves. I do scoop them out, which is what this is, but obviously it's been autumnal, so there's quite a few leaves dropping in there. There's another attempted flower of the lily, but they kind of start to open and then they seem to just give up, which I think is probably because they're a bit cramped. The fountain is actually working better than it was. I think it basically just built up a bunch of muck in it, and I have cleaned it out recently. It's obviously got a bit messy again, so it probably needs a thorough cleaning, but it's still putting a bit of aeration in there, so that's okay. And the fish is still fine. I've only lost that one, which, as I suspect, was from the heavy hail that we had, because all the rest seem to be okay in there. Every now and then I see one floating around, moving, not just floating, moving. So they seem to be okay. In here and over the edge, I believe, are mostly self-seeded Nigella. So Nigella, as it turns out, I've learned, is quite happy to self-seed and quite vigorously. And then there's some other extra little plants that I got in cells from the local big store, so I think with one of my vouchers, so that was good. The raspberry canes, which will need to be cut down at some point, I'm leaving them go for the moment. I'm assuming they're supposed to go drop their leaves or something first, but I'll double check that a bit later. So again, excuse the mess. One of the avocado trees and the greenhouse. So we have, what do we have? We have Canterbury bells growing here. We have, well, it doesn't look like cabbage there, so they're probably actually not anymore. But that one might be. I think actually those cabbages were probably actually ones that I put out into the veggie patch, so that's okay. Here we have cauliflower. So trying those without the top on. One of the lettuce, transplanted to a pot. Another one, another one, another one. 2 more. The reason I put those there is because they were originally in here. And so I planted some out into the veggie patch. I've obviously left some here. And I thought, well, why not pot some into plants and we can see just how well they can grow on their own. Some of them I don't think are going to be able to grow to a particularly decent size for eating. That one might. 2 over there maybe, but a bit of an experiment. We'll see what happens. That's okay. That I think is some celery that I've moved there. But who knows with my organisation. These are alyssum. So I've got a whole bunch of those because I wanted to grow some from seed so I can put those around the garden and fill in some gaps. Audrey is a bit of a mixed bag. Looks like some of those bits might need to be taken out, but that's okay. Actually it looks like my cutting here might have actually died, but I'll leave it there because it's not really taking up any space, so I'd be using for anything else. Gooseberry cutting is what that was. That is indeed an eggplant, and I suspect that's not going to do much more in the current weather. But here, I'll just put that elsewhere for the moment. My kiwi fruit, which I'm growing from seed. This one obviously doing quite nicely. So these are the replacements for the one that I accidentally killed by overwatering. So I'm trying to be a bit more careful with these now. And these ones, oops, I thought that might slide off, sorry about that, that was the lid. These were grown on, well, they're all grown on from basically seeds that were germinated via the plastic bag technique, the Ziploc bag. So basically, paper towel, wet the paper towel, put the seeds on it, put them in the Ziploc bag. One of the Ziploc bags I sealed. The other, I didn't. The one that I didn't seal is what this one came from. And it was, they germinated fine. There was no sign of any sort of mold or anything. The other bag I did seal, and it developed a black cover on it, like basically I assume mold on the paper towel. However, I thought I'll open it up and just leave it open, but leave it to continue growing. And it turned out they still germinated. So the lesson there is don't give up if it looks like your attempt at a bag germination with a paper towel has gone all mouldy. They may still be okay. Don't rely on that though. Probably try and do a better job than I did, but these are actually coming along quite nicely. So these are my backup. That one, as I said, going quite nicely. These are all doing all right, and there's one over there as well. The 2 lupin seeds that I did manage to salvage from the bush out the front, plant out the front, I guess it's not a bush, or maybe it is. I've put in there. I don't know if they're going to do much. I didn't nick them or anything. They do seem like fairly sturdy seeds, so we shall see. Here's some broccoli. It's doing quite nicely there. Some more lettuce transplanted to there. These are celery. Just seeing how they do. I can't remember what those are. There might be rosemary. I think they're rosemary, actually. We'll just move the noisy lid that fell back over here. Might need to water those again in a moment. Now, speaking of rosemary, do I have the rosemary in here? Ah, yes. I have some rosemary in there, some celery in there, and a lot more celery here. So these are all grown from seed, obviously. Probably, obviously. Cauliflower here, which I don't know when to put them out. Everyone else seems to grow these nice, big, thick plants before they plant them out. So maybe I'll just leave them in there for a bit longer before considering that. These ones look a bit better, but I've still seen all you other YouTubers, you grow them nice and big, so I don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, the rest of here. Don't know what this one is. This might be one of the ones that our eldest brought back from his work when someone said, oh, you can have these. And he seemed to be under the impression that it was just a bunch of compost. On reflection, I think they're actually bulbs that the person was offering. So I suspect it's some form of bulb. Well, I mean, it is some sort of bulb plant, but I don't think it's an edible bulb. I suspect that's probably more like a maybe it's a daffodil or a tulip or something like that. But I'll just keep growing that there and we'll see what comes of it. Alyssum, because it seems to be one of my favourite flowers. It does smell nice and it fills out areas quite nicely. The overwintered 2-year-old or so capsicum is there. There's another Bells of Ireland, because as I've said, I think in a previous one, I do like to put, if I've got multiples of things, I like to put one copy of it, as it were, in here, and at least in the rest outside. That way I've got a little bit of variety in here as well. Avocado plant, or tree, I guess is what it is. That was one that was found amongst all the compost that I had here. It had a very nice big trunk, I guess, to the stone, but there were no leaves on it. I thought, well, look, I'll plant it and see what happens, and it's coming along quite well. So again, don't give up on plants too easily. They may still come good. Cherry tomatoes, these were, I think, self-seeded in here, and I've just let them grow because I'm not planning on using this space for anything else at the moment, so why not? So they'll just use a little bit of string to keep them tight. Oh, there's a... apparently I'm growing spiders in here as well, or harvesting. Anyway, they can get the bugs. The viburnum in here, there was a leftover from the ones in the front. I'm still learning about those. I'm not sure what that should look like at the moment, but we'll see what happens when its growing season comes around. Hopefully it's okay. Brassica there, can't remember what sort, because I'm not very good with labelling and remembering things. It'll be either broccoli, cauliflower, or cabbage. I suspect cauliflower, or I hope it is actually, because cauliflower I had in the vegetable patch. It did grow, but it sort of ended up looking a bit funny at the end. There's actually a pineapple plant under there, but my main pineapple plant is that one. So again, that was just chopped off the top of a pineapple from the supermarket, put it in the ground, the soil, and just look after it, but not putting too much effort into it. I just give it a bit of a sprinkle of water every now and then, but it seems to be doing fine. Another foxglove in the pot over there. Hollyhock, which I'll need to trim back again. I kind of end up basically just using that for mulch, but that's okay. I've actually got some potatoes in there just to give that a bit of a try. We'll see how we go. A little bit of the wood chip left over, so that's nice. Some bags of all-purpose potting mix, which were from one of my vouchers. Some more butternut pumpkin. Turns out about 4 or 5 pumpkin pies is the maximum we can tolerate per season. We're all sort of getting a bit tired of the pumpkin pie, so I'll probably use the rest for roasts and see if I can give away some of the rest. Through the mess, I'm just going to do a quick the garage. But what's in here? I've built myself a home voice recording studio. It's got nothing to do with gardening, except perhaps in the sense that it was built for free using pallet wood. Incidentally, and I'm not too sure about the wisdom of using carpet in gardens and things like that as a weed suppressant, but those pallets were basically grabbed from a local carpet and tile place, and they're all too happy to get rid of the pallets and some carpet cut-offs. So if you're looking to make a pallet compost bay and you are fine with using carpet to stifle weeds, maybe check your local carpet and tile place. So this is the backyard, obviously, the back garden part. I believe it's a cyclamen or cyclamen. It's still doing right. Obviously I need to weed here. Ignore that. Can't remember what this one was. It had the nice, I think, blue or purpley flowers. I trimmed that back because I just thought probably good to give it a bit of a tidy up. Alyssum, of course. Some bulbs there. They might be hyacinth, I'm not entirely sure. And it looks like yet another, oh, there is another potato there, we can actually see it there. These bits and pieces, I'm not sure if those are ones I've scattered there, the leaves, so I'm letting those grow and we'll see what happens. I think it was African Dawn or Sunset Dahlia is obviously coming to the end of its season. The Hebe, self-seeded potato. Looks like some more lettuce. These ones are cost lettuce, I think. I think these are self-seeded as well. That's just a stalk of the dahlia. I trimmed it. I thought I'd just jam it in the ground. Excuse me. If it grows, it grows. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Orange tree grown from seed. Salvia misty, by the looks of the label that I conveniently put into the ground there. There's a little, that would be a sweet pea there. Sweet peas in the back. I'd love them to grow up this. They kind of did last year, but not too much, but we'll see how we go. Still some of the Cafe au lait dahlia going, which is good. my champion self-saved apple tree. Again, this one and that one were planted at the same time, but there's a huge difference in the growth. But that's all right. That's the garden for the end of May. The weather is certainly starting to dip, so we'll be into winter for the next one. Thank you for watching, and happy gardening.